everyone. Welcome back to another 33 and 1 production. In the Meantime podcast. Today is going to be the day that we're focusing on speaking about faith. And growing up, I did grow up always knowing about God. We always prayed over dinner. When things were hard, we were praying to Him. But I did not grow up in a family that was like, we have to go to church every Wednesday and Sunday. You have to read your Bible. You have to really get into your word. We were very prayer based. And it was, again, over dinner, over meals. Whenever family, of course, got together during the holidays, Thanksgiving, of course. It was not until high school, I want to say, that I became more intentional about building a relationship with God. I started attending a church. Something that I'm going to be doing in my videos is going to be discussing these allergies. I'm not going to lie to you guys. My throat has been killing me. I am always sniffling. And it's like when I was younger, I had no issues with pollen. And now I'll have random pollen attacks. I do apologize because it's very random when it happens. So I just want to leave that note there. But back to the conversation, I became very intentional about my relationship with God when I got into high school and wanting to build that relationship. I started attending a church consistently. Every Wednesday after school, I would attend this church. And, back in my days, now I feel old, but back in my days, where you weren't allowed to do a lot. It was very minimal. If you did anything, it had to be in the neighborhood. So having that opportunity to go from school, get onto a bus and be driven to this location, even though it is church, all in itself is like hanging out to a lot of people. And I did feel like some of the people that would come with us were there for that, but then in turn they got saved. So it was like, joke's on you. And that's how God works. I know that that's how God works. He's kind of like, nope, actually, I'm the biggest comedian here. So I loved that growing up. And with building that relationship, I continued to keep my faith. And once I lost my grandfather, which I previously spoke on when I was discussing getting into the law field and getting my bachelor's and stuff, once I lost my grandfather, I found myself not wanting to speak to God anymore. In this journey I'm still taking, I have come in and out of relationship with God because of that pinnacle point. And it was very hard for me to feel like there was a God, because that was the one person that was like the protector around us, showed us what a provider is, hard work. I mean, he was the person that taught me all of the things that a father would do. He did. Like, he took on that role, even though he was my grandfather. And he also had an understanding of my relationship with my mother, and he always played like the devil's advocate, I want to say, because when I originally went away to college, I wasn't really communicative with my mom, and he would be the one calling me up. And my grandfather did not speak a lick of English. Anyone that knew my grandfather knows this about him. He did not speak English. So when I'm speaking, I am saying it in English, but he is saying it in Spanish completely. But he would call me up and he would be like, why aren't you calling your mother? Why aren't you talking to her? And then I would tell him, like, I'm studying, like, I'm in the library. Like, I had a bunch of excuses. I was already falling away from my relationship with God because of the things that I was experiencing up until I left and went away to college. And then when my grandfather passed, it was like, oh, well, why should I believe in you anyways? So now coming to this point in my life where I'm 33 years old, my grandfather has been gone for a while now, and it's been a healing process in itself. Grief has a way of coming in waves that can be any emotion. Grief is not always sad or sadness, which is something that I had to learn. And in learning that and building my relationship with God and rebuilding my relationship with God and understanding that, I found myself falling back to God because of grief that my family that I was building started to experience. And when that grief was happening, I focused more on God and not just what He's calling me to do, but having a better understanding of the journeys that individuals have to take and why we as humans shouldn't interfere. Everything has a reason and everything is planned out. I'm not really scripted with this particular conversation. This is to be very transparent. I just wanted to speak on this podcast where I will be speaking all things faith and my experiences with faith and what it's been doing for me in the now. So I'm going to fast forward now because that's just a little bit of background of my relationship with God and how long it's been in this journey. And now I'm going to speak on like what I've been studying. And it's kind of similar to what I've already been saying in some of my other videos, because even though I'm going to have one dedicated day of being intentional and only speaking on my faith, all of my videos are going to speak on my faith, because I know that the reason that I'm doing what I'm doing is to show people that the only reason why I am where I am, why I have my family, why I'm still here is because of God. The only reason why I'm able to do the things that I'm doing is because God wants me to do them. And the moment He doesn't want me to be doing it, He'll make sure I'm not doing it. And that's what I have an understanding of. And that's what I'm trying to rely in this podcast, in 33 and 1, in my day-to-day when it comes to how I navigate parenting with my kids, especially in this day and age with media. And then how I navigate marriage, because I didn't grow up in a environment where people got married and stayed married. And then also having a closer relationship with God allows me to cancel out the noise of the enemy, in other words. So one of the things that I want to go and speak on is something that I learned in my Bible study group that I'm currently in. I believe we're in like week 8 or 9 now. But the very first thing learned about with this group was about prayer, which is unique to what I was saying, that prayer is really the foundation of like what my family would do, but that's where they stopped. And then now that I'm older, I know that that's one form, that's one tool that God allows us to use to have conversation with Him, but it's not the only thing that we should be doing. But I do want to focus on prayer and when you pray. So one of the questions that I want to pose to the audience was a question that was posed to us, which is, what leads you to pray? And when you take a moment to think about it, you're like, what leads me to pray? So for me, what leads me to pray now is absolutely everything. I pray about everything. I pray when I'm waking up. I pray when I feel unbalanced. I'm praying when everyone is laughing and running around and happy. I'm praying when things are terrible and things are going bad. I'm praying in the middle of an argument. Like, I'm praying all the time now because I have an understanding that this form of communication is one of the best forms to also take a pause and listen, because with praying, you're also wanting answers. So you need to be still enough to hear Him speak back when you pray. So having an understanding of, yes, pray, but then be quiet and listen and wait. And a lot of the times He will not only give you your answers, but He'll show you how you're going to do the thing that you just prayed on. And sometimes it's immediate, and then other times it's like drawn out and you're waiting for weeks, months, maybe even years on that thing that you prayed on. But if you prayed on it, make sure you're always taking moments to be silent about that thing that you prayed on, because He is going to give you answers. And are you missing them because you're not listening? You're not being still. You're moving too quickly. Because one thing that I understand, which I previously said, is that God meets you where you are, not where others expect you to be or intend you to be. So you are able to go to Him as you are. You can pray and speak to Him in the language that you speak to everybody, or to your closest friends, to your loved ones, like however you naturally speak. Come to Him as you are and use praying as your way of opening up that line of communication to the things that you see for yourself, because if you're seeing it for yourself, He put that vision in you. We were all here for a purpose, and which is for all of us to expand others' knowledge on who God is, who Jesus is, and what he can do for you. Once you understand your purpose is that, you know that all the things around you that you're able to do are to fulfill that purpose. So how do you do that with that tool? And these tools could be music, singing, drums, guitar, it could be art, drawing, painting. It could be even in the legal field. For me, I know that my calling is to help those that have been silenced in a way, those that can't fight for themselves, and be an advocate for them. And that is going to be my tool to also opening others' eyes on how God and Jesus can change their paths and their avenues and their reactions, to be honest, because we all have emotions, and the things that we experience create emotions. But our emotions are just signals to us about what these events make us feel, whether that's uncomfortable or comfortable, happy or sad, joyful or melancholy, like whatever that is. Your emotions are the signals to the events that are occurring around you, and understanding what kind of places and spaces you want to be in and should be in versus not want to be in or should not be in. So I just want to pose that to you all. Again, the things that cause you to pray, and then end it on a question as well, which is, what do you think about the idea that God answers prayer or answers your prayer? I believe it's not a no, it's a not right now. And sometimes when you're praying, it can be instantaneously that you see the answers, or it can take some time. But to be still in the meantime when you're waiting on those prayers to be answered. So that is all we're going to discuss today. I'm really getting into the swing of this podcast and trying to ensure that I stay strategic in a way that I'm not all over the place, and you guys can follow, the audience can follow what I'm saying. So just bear with me in this journey because it is new for me, and I'm again only doing the thing that is the tool that God provided me to be able to fulfill my purpose. And that's why I'm doing this. And I truly hope that you guys can continue to follow along this journey, join the journey, comment, like, subscribe, and ask questions and provide answers. Because again, one of the subjects, or one of the I don't know why I'm blanking out so much, but one of the episodes weekly will be about the audience, the community, the engagement, the questions that you guys all have. And so in the meantime, I hope you guys really enjoy these videos and that they're helpful in some way. And please be transparent. I am going to start saying in my videos to be kind, to do everything with love. Even if it is criticism, I am okay with open criticism and critiques, as long as you are sharing it with love and not as an attack, because as long as it's done in love, then adjustments can actually be made. I can actually hear what's being said to me, and then I can change accordingly. I'm very open to that because this is my first time around in this type of setup that I'm striving for. Even though I've created content before, as I previously said, this has a whole new intention behind it now that I know the whole purpose. So thank you for meeting me here again at In the Meantime, a 33-in-1 production. I hope you guys will join me in our next episode. And again, like, comment, share, subscribe. Definitely comment. I'm more interested in hearing your thoughts, your questions, your feedback, your experiences as well when it comes to setbacks, your faith, getting into the legal or law field. So yeah, drop those comments below, and feel free to message me at hello@33and1.com. Thank you, and hope to see you guys again.